husband's impression remained unchanged even after we started dating. He was a very kind and considerate man, and I always felt at ease being by his side. Since it was my first time experiencing such a reassuring relationship, I remember that I was very comfortable. After 2 years of dating, we decided to get married.
Why don't we go to my parents' house next weekend so that I can introduce you to them? Next weekend? Sure. I'm a bit nervous. It'll be fine, haha. They live in a countryside, and everyone is looking forward to meeting you, Riley.
He is from a countryside, and he moved to the city when he entered university. Eventually, he would take over his family's farming business. When I first heard about it, I was quite anxious about becoming a farmer's wife. Considering we would inevitably live with his family, I worried about how well I would fit in. However, when I went to meet his parents for the first time, they were all cheerful and lovely.
Welcome, Riley. I'm Grayson's mother. Thank you for coming all the way here. I'm Riley. Nice to meet you. Oh, enough with the formalities.
Despite my reservations, my mother-in-law welcomed me with a smile. Seeing her like that, my worry seemed to have disappeared. I thought,
if this is how it is, living together should be fine.
However, that was an illusion as it was only for our first meeting. Right after we got married, we moved to my in-laws' house and started living with them. There, a malicious mother-in-law, who is like a completely different person from before, awaited me.
Riley, what are you doing, just standing there? You don't even serve tea for us if I don't tell you? Use your head and be more efficient. We don't need someone so absent-minded here. Oh my gosh, you're so slow. You are already giving me a headache.
I never expected that my mother-in-law would be this spiteful on the day that I moved in. I was taken aback by my mother-in-law, who is completely different from the time when I first met her. However, I convinced myself that this must be something that I have to go through to become a good farmer's wife, and made efforts to accept the situation. But afterward, her attitude towards me only became harsher. Even though I kept working as a freelance engineer after I got married, my mother-in-law couldn't comprehend the concept of working from home. And she treated me as if I was a full-time housewife.
Riley, what are you doing? Holed up in your room? If you have that much free time, at least clean the kitchen. I'm sorry, but I'm working. Oh, enough with the excuses. In this rural place, there's no way you have a job. I've been living here for decades. Such lies are pointless. No, it's not a lie. I'm working remotely, using my computer. Stop making excuses. I'm busy, so help me out. Seriously, you don't even have a job, yet you make all kinds of excuses.
I gradually got fed up with my mother-in-law and decided to discuss it with my husband.
Hey, it's about your mom. What? Please don't tell me you have a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law issue already. Haha. No. I mean, why would you say it like that? I'm just doing my job as usual, but she treats me like I have no job, and tell me to clean the house. How can I make her understand my work? Don't ask me that. Talk to her yourself. She's not a bad person, so she'll probably understand if you explain. I'm tired, so I'm going to bed. Good night.
My husband, seemingly busy with farm work every day, didn't have time to listen to my concerns or offer any support. After all, my husband was obedient to his mother, and he was unreliable. Thus, it was as if I was living alone in an unfamiliar house, and I was under a lot of stress. I even began to think that I should never have gotten married. In addition to the mean remarks from my mother-in-law, I was practically forced to do all the household chores in my in-laws' house.
Riley, starting tomorrow, I'll need you to prepare breakfast for everyone.
One night, my mother-in-law suddenly told me this, and from the next day onwards, I had to make breakfast for my parents-in-law, husband, myself, and 4 other relatives who lived nearby, totaling 8 people. As farm mornings start early, everyone would gather at the table by 6 a.m. Therefore, I woke up alone before 5 a.m. in complete darkness to prepare breakfast. Even though my mother-in-law, relatives, and husband were all aware that I was preparing all by myself, not a single person offered to help or showed any concern. I felt miserable, and gradually it became hard to even eat my own breakfast. And it wasn't just breakfast.
Riley, you need to clean and do laundry every day. Plus, you have to prepare lunch, dinner, and snacks, as well as handle the shopping. There's no time to space out. You came here prepared for that, right? Don't make that face now.
My mother-in-law tried to make me handle all other household chores alone as well. Meanwhile, if she had been occupied with other matters, it might have been more bearable. However, my mother-in-law constantly followed me around, monitoring my every move, and criticized my every action.
Come on. You can't put that much sauce in it. Seriously, your parents must be terrible at cooking.
You are such a useless daughter-in-law who can't even cook.
Since your parents didn't raise you well. I'm so unlucky as I have to educate this daughter-in-law who is such a failure. She even criticized my parents. I can't trust city people,
she said coldly. As she didn't believe anything I said, I gradually felt as if I lost the purpose of my existence and a place where I feel comfortable. Still, I was trying my best, so that I can become a good daughter-in-law as soon as possible. In the beginning. Initially, I thought, if I showed some growth, my mother-in-law might acknowledge me. However, contrary to my hopes, my mother-in-law never eased her attitude towards me. On the contrary, she would say things like,
"Hey, Riley, are you not pregnant yet? We are not an ordinary family. We are a farmer family with a history. Are you planning to let it end because of you? We need you to have the heir of this family as soon as possible. You married into our family for that purpose, right? Honestly, I didn't care who my son was marrying, as long as she does the house chores and gives birth to children. Hurry up and fulfill your duties."
She said it as if I were merely a tool to have a chili, and I couldn't stand my mother-in-law's remarks. It felt like my entire humanity was being denied, and it was painfully unbearable. With no one around to support me, the situation pushed me further into loneliness. Daily life itself was difficult and exhausting for me, but the hardest part was the frequent gatherings of relatives. There was a monthly large family gathering, where more relatives joined, in addition to the members who came for breakfast. They claimed it was a feast to enjoy vegetables from the field, heal daily fatigue, and refresh the spirit. However, for me, it was a torment. It was because, not only was I forced to cook alone, but also my mother-in-law constantly supervised and criticized me. I was naturally skilled at cooking, but I was nervous because she was watching me so closely, and I couldn't cook as I wanted. Furthermore, when I went to the dining room after I finished cooking and cleaning up a little bit, by that time, there would be no food left for me.
"Riley, you're late. There's hardly any food left. You are so slow. If you wanted to eat, you should have come sooner. You didn't come for a long time, so I thought you were already full." "Right, everyone. Besides, everyone has finished eating, so it's time to clean up."
No one dared to counter my mother-in-law, who was taking charge, and everyone just smirked and watched me. In the end, I couldn't eat anything. I was forced to clean up, and spent a day working tirelessly. By the way, today's soup was really bad. How on earth did you make it? I've never had such terrible soup in my whole life. I felt sorry for everyone. Seriously, please don't disgrace me like this. My mother-in-law never simply praised my cooking. She always found something to complain about, and this time, I was ridiculed in front of everyone. I felt frustrated beyond words. Seeking help, I looked at my husband, but he was busy drinking, completely ignoring me. As I couldn't get any support from my husband, who was my last resort, I started considering divorce. In the midst of such hardship, I couldn't imagine living the rest of my life this way. Every day, I felt a strong sense of discomfort towards my in-laws, who subjected me to such discrimination and harassment. However, lacking the courage and energy, I couldn't make a decision to divorce, and I had no choice but to endure every day. It was too hard to bear, and at one point, I sought advice from my mother. She responded, "That sounds tough. Is your health okay?
If it gets too hard, don't think about anything, and come back here. Our home will always be your home, and we are on your side."
My mother encouraged me, and I couldn't help but burst into tears at the warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. This exchange with my mother gave me a bit of courage, and I found the strength to keep going again. Then, one day, an unforgettable incident occurred. It was when we went to a high-end restaurant to celebrate a relative's birthday. It was supposed to be a dinner gathering of a total of 10 people, including my in-laws, relatives, and husband.
Welcome. We have a reservation under the name of Carter. Carter, we've been expecting you. Oh, that's odd. The reservation is for 9 people, but there are 10 of you, correct? I'm sorry. We'll prepare another seat right away. Oh, no worries. After all, our family consists of 9 people. Haha.
I just learned that my mother-in-law had told the staff the same thing when she made the reservation. She had strongly instructed me to bring my wallet for this dinner. At this moment, I realized she had only invited me to make me pay. Feeling humiliated, I considered leaving. However,
if you'd like, we can prepare a table for 1 person,
the staff said. Since I was hungry and irritated, I decided to fully enjoy some delicious food. I accepted the staff's kindness and asked her to make a table just for me. The seat, a bit away from my family, was more comfortable than I had expected. From a distance, I could see how my family was making a commotion in the restaurant, and they were repeatedly warned by the staff.
Excuse me, there are other customers here, so please keep it down a bit. Huh? Who are you talking to? We're customers too. Do you think it's okay to talk to a customer like that? Well, there are other customers here as well. Shut up. Let me talk to the manager.
My mother-in-law wouldn't listen to the staff's warnings, and she continued to express her whims as usual. Apparently, they ordered an excessive amount of food, and the staff seemed troubled.
This amount seems a bit too much. All our dishes have substantial portions, so if you order for 20 people, I don't think you can eat it all.
Despite the staff's friendly advice, my mother-in-law paid no attention.
You are being a nuisance. Be quiet. How much we, the customers, order is none of your business. We eat a lot, so don't say anything.
In the end, my mother-in-law disregarded the advice and ordered dishes for 20 people. Naturally, they couldn't finish it all, leaving more than half of the food untouched. The staff looked at the situation with a disapproving expression, and I felt deeply sorry for them. And I was once again disgusted by the audacious behavior of my mother-in-law and the relatives. While that was happening, I finished eating, so I decided to leave. I left the restaurant without telling them, of course. When my mother-in-law and the relatives were about leave, they finally realized that I was no longer there.
Where did my daughter-in-law go? She didn't leave, did she? Unbelievable. That foolish daughter-in-law.
my mother-in-law tried to find me to make me pay, but of course, I wasn't there. Apparently, she was angry, yelling outside the restaurant. After that, I received a barrage of calls from her, but I ignored them. That's right, at that moment, I had already decided to get a divorce. Unable to reach me, my mother-in-law demanded money from the relatives. However, since everyone had heard that my mother-in-law was treating them, none of them had brought enough cash or cards to pay for the bill, and no one could pay.
About the payment. I know. The person who was supposed to pay ran away. If you have any complaints, tell my daughter-in-law. Honestly, what's wrong with her? I won't let this slide. I'll make her come back to pay later, so I'm leaving.
Saying this, my mother-in-law attempted to leave the scene, but, of course, that was not acceptable.
Ma'am, you can't do that. We can't let you leave without settling the bill. There is nothing I can do, because my daughter-in-law had run away.
Eventually, due to my mother-in-law's uncooperative attitude and lack of progress in the situation, the restaurant staff decided to call the police. With that, my mother-in-law was taken into custody for dining and dashing. Later, my father-in-law returned home, came up with money, paid the restaurant, and went to the police station to bring my mother-in-law back. Finally, she was released. When she came home, she was furious.
Riley, sit down and explain what on earth happened.
I had nothing left to lose, and no reason to falter.
I'm leaving this house tonight. I'm fed up with being mistreated, insulted, and bossed around every single day. My husband is of no help, and I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to get divorced.
With that firm declaration, I left my in-laws' house with my belongings, leaving the divorce papers. Afterwards, I received multiple apology emails and messages from my husband, expressing his desire to reconcile. However, by then, I had absolutely no affection left for him. Eventually, it seemed my husband had given up, and the divorce was finalized. We were able to part ways, without any issues. In fact, I had recorded some of the insults and criticisms from my mother-in-law. When I went to consult with a lawyer with it, I was informed that I could claim compensation. This was something I hadn't expected, and I was happy. Following that, my mother-in-law was ordered to pay approximately $30,000 in compensation. Unable to afford it as she wasn't working, she asked my father-in-law and husband to pay for her, but both refused. Apparently, everyone was fed up with my mother-in-law's attitude, and no one was willing to help her. As a result, my mother-in-law incurred debts and started part-time cleaning work to repay them. Additionally, the incident at the restaurant had spread on social media without us knowing, making my mother-in-law a topic of gossip in the neighborhood. Now, she is too embarrassed to go outside, and she is having a hard time at work as well since people are talking behind her back. My husband also became famous as a husband who was abandoned by his wife in the neighborhood. In rural areas, once a rumor spreads, it tends to linger. Thinking about how they would suffer to live with these rumors, I couldn't help but feel satisfied deep down. On the other hand, I returned to the city, rented a new apartment, resumed work, and regained a fulfilling daily life. I realized once again that enjoying a carefree life by myself suits me better than marriage. From now on, I'm going to live my life in the way that makes me happy.